Hey friends, welcome to my channel. Today's episode, we're going to be doing American crafts using the good old red, white, and blue to celebrate our independence here in the United States. I really love the 4th of July, so I always try to do at least one of these videos every year. If you are not into celebrating 4th of July, don't worry. These videos have lots of tips and tricks and ideas in them, so make sure you still keep watching. Now come along and let's make something beautiful for our homes. The Dollar Tree has a lot of amazing 4th of July, Memorial Day craft things to work with. But we're going to use the wood circle from their craft section, this darling metal welcome sign with a truck on it, and some fabric. I started by removing this twine string because we are going to really elevate this so it looks high-end with a store finish. I'm taking my fabric, I cut it down to size that I need, and I'm first going to add on my star fabric, and then I'm also going to add on my red and white ticking stripe. I typically get my fabric from Joann's, but since they have closed, I am also recommending you can get a lot of these fabrics from Hobby Lobby, as well as probably other fabric local stores around you. I know Walmart also sells fabric, so you can try there too. Once I've got it glued down, and you can see I went half and half, I'm going to take my scissors and cut along the wood of that circle. Once I've gotten all the way around, I don't show it, but I'm going to just explain it. I take a piece of sandpaper and I rough up the edge of the circle with the fabric. You do not have to get a perfect clean cut with your scissors, because when we rough it up, it's going to give it this really nice farmhouse flair to it, where it's a little bit rustic. You can see here that the edges are a little bit frayed, and the sandpaper does a great job with that. Now I'm going to take the truck away from the chain by just loosening that with my needle nose pliers, and we are going to add that right to the center of this sign. You can see here I've got my foam. I'm just going to cut it down to the size I need so it's concealed behind the truck. This is going to elevate the truck and make it look so high-end. Now, to put the glue down, you could just use hot glue, but I just wanted to make sure that it was really sticking well. So fabric to foam, I used hot glue, and then foam to truck, the metal sign, I'm going to add E6000 to the truck. I'm also going to add on the hot glue. This is really going to make sure it locks on there. But before I add the truck, I'm going to put my moss around the sides. It'll just make it easier so that you don't have to try to struggle to get that down in there to conceal some of that green foam. We don't want to see that part. Now that I've got that foam on there, I went ahead and also added in some greenery. I'm just using this boxwood pick that I get from the Dollar Tree. I love that they finally came out with a pick using boxwood because it's affordable and it's fun to work with. It has a very farmhouse flair, which is my favorite here on my channel. I also ended up adding in some of these white sprigs. This is a floral pick I get from Hobby Lobby when all their florals are on sale, and it lasts me forever. I think it's $9.99. I get it when it's half off, and like I said, it just lasts me forever. Now here I am, I'm bringing in that E6000 and the hot glue so it really glues it down, and you can see adding on the greenery, the florals, the moss, that's the easiest way before you glue down the truck, so you don't have to struggle. Now up at the top, using those existing holes from the wood sign, I'm going to add on some wire and twist it into place. I'm going to add on a couple of beads. They have these bead garlands at the Dollar Tree. They're red, white, and blue. You can see that USA circle tag over to the side. That's from the bead garland. I'm going to cut that apart and just use a couple beads, twist the wire into place on both of the holes for the welcome sign. And at this point, you have a customized, beautiful sign for your front door to welcome all your guests. This project is going to be so substantial and large in size, perfect for an entryway or even on top of a bookcase. I am so excited to share this. So I've got this big sign from the Dollar Tree, some of these garland stars, and then these crates. We're also going to be using foam, Spanish moss, and some greeneries, as well as craft wood sticks. I started by taking off the staples and the ribbon from the sign, and then I glued together these 4 boxes. Now make sure your glue is nice and hot so that you get enough time to be able to glue across all the boxes and to add that onto your sign. Push everything nice and snug up against each other. Make sure it's sitting flat. Check all the different angles so that this is sitting flat but also leveled. Now I'm going to take that foam, I'm going to put a piece into each of the boxes, add in some of this moss to conceal the foam, and then we can start decorating. Friends, this project is so fast and it looks so high end when we're done. This is something that really is a showstopper at a front door. I am definitely going to be displaying this at the front of my house. I just think it is so fun and festive. Go ahead, add on some glue to these stars that I took apart from the garland, and you can see that I'm going to now be bringing them in at different heights. I didn't cut the sticks at first. I wanted to first see where I wanted each one to be, so I glued on the sticks, let them dry, and now I'm customizing as I go. I cut them if I need them a little bit shorter, a little bit taller. It just depends on what I'm doing for each one. I'm then going to add some hot glue to the stick and push that down into the foam, decorating the length of the box. And then to finish, come in with whatever greenery you want. I went with a real neutral look of just boxwood, some green sprigs, and some white salvia. This project is so easy, and we are going to elevate this darling sign, this mason jar, U.S. Freedom, from the Dollar Tree. I also am going to be using this bead garland. I love these bead garlands. They give you so many options to play with in your craft room. Take a piece of wire, cut it down to the size you want, and remove the twine from the top of this mason jar sign. Now I want to use this tassel for another day, another project. I'm going to just move my way up the beads, cut it so that I can make sure that there's a long piece of the twine still to the tassel so I can tie it to something else on another day. And then I'm going to take my wire, twist that in place, and then start threading on the beads. I'm going to go with a red, white, and blue pattern. You can see I started with white and then I took it off and then I added red. So I'm going to go red, white, and blue all the way to the end of the wire, and then once I get there, I'm going to just simply thread it through that hole on the other side and then twist it into place. Whatever wire I had extra, I just took my wire cutters and just cut that piece off. Now we could leave it like that and it's super cute and it's already elevated from what it originally was, or we can add some bows because I love bows and buttons, and why not? Let's just do it. It's fun. I'm adding on a denim bow as well as a red and white gingham bow, and I'm just layering them one on top of the other. I think these look so cute together, so patriotic, which I just love this look. And then I'm going to add on a couple of these star buttons. I get my buttons at Hobby Lobby, so you can find all different types of buttons at Hobby Lobby. Glue those right on top of each other and you've got yourself a darling sign that cost hardly anything to make. For this DIY, we're going to be using 4 plungers from the Dollar Tree, but if you have wood dowels already from your home improvement store, you can use those too. Now I'm going to use my heat gun to remove these stickers because they are so hard to remove if they are at room temperature. I went ahead and took my miter box and I cut them down to all different sizes, the 4 different stakes from the plunger. And then I went and sanded down the ends where I had cut them in half to make sure that they're nice and smooth and there's no splinters coming out. Now I'm going to be painting each one of these dowels, and it's all going to be red, white, and blue since this is a very patriotic themed video. I'm going to go ahead and do this one where I had all white first, then I added on blue at the top, and now I'm coming in with some red stripes, and then with the back of my brush I'm going to create some polka dots. Once that was dry, I moved on to the next one. I painted it all white. I did some thick blue stripes. On the third one, I did it all white again, painted on thick red stripes, and then a thick blue band in the middle with some polka dots. On the fourth one, I went ahead and did only thick white bands, as well as white polka dots all over it. And then you can see here that I came in with those last sticks. I did a solid blue, a solid white, and a solid red. Now this completes all of my sticks. You can honestly paint them whatever colors you want. But now I'm going to take my drill, and I've decided to do this because I wanted to make sure that the wick, the rope, and the twine that I'm putting at the top really stays on there and they don't fall off over time. So you can skip this drill part if you don't think it's necessary, but I really like my things to feel like they've come from the store. So you can see here that I drilled that hole. I didn't go in very deep, just deep enough to be able to put a little bit of the rope or the twine down in there when I hot glued it in so it would stay in place. So to create the wick, you're just going to take a rope or a piece of twine. You're going to tie it in a knot or 2 until you get it thick enough that you want. And then you can see here for the rope, I cut off a lot of that extra thickness of the rope. I left 2 of those little fibers. Those little fibers are going to be what I stick down into the hole to really lock it down in there. And then I just keep twisting it until it's on there nice and tight. And then at the very end, I'm just going to fray out all the ends of those ropes or the twines to make them look like they're the ends of a firecracker. Now I decided I want mine to stand up, so I'm going to just keep testing it. I'm standing up the first one, gluing on a couple of them, checking to make sure it can still stand up on its own, and I'm just going to keep adding on all of these different firecracker sticks until it's all standing up nice and firm. Now I'm going to take some twine and I'm going to wrap it around it a whole bunch of times, and this is where I have a free printable for you all. The free printable is linked down below. It'll take you to my website where you can download it in a safe environment so you won't have any issues downloading it. And then you're just going to basically wrap on your twine, cut out your tag, and then be able to add the tag right to it. And there's a couple different tag options. Pick the one that you want. Have fun with these printable tags for the 4th of July American theme. And then once you're all done, it's ready to be displayed in your home. This DIY is so incredibly fast, and it is an upcycle. Take any cans that you have in 3 different sizes, and then after that you're going to just take them outside and spray paint them red, white, and blue. I love twine so much. I use it on a lot of my projects, and I just think it adds a very cute farmhouse feel to any project when you do add a little twine to it. So I wrapped around some twine twice, tied it in a knot, and then cut off the extra of that twine that's coming down and added on a star. I did that for all 3 of the cans, and then on the smallest one I flipped it up so that the opening was facing up, and now I'm going to add some greenery. I thought that this made it even more special by adding a little bit of greenery with it. I personally love a lot of greenery in my home because it makes it just feel like a very warm and inviting and calming place. And once you're all done, it's ready to be displayed. For this DIY, we're going to be using 5 sticks that I found out in my yard, some fabric, some twine, and then the free printable. We're going to be using the smaller star because we're going to be making a whole bunch of darling flags that you can stake all over your house, in planters, in a cute bucket. I just think that this DIY is so fun and so easy if you're looking for a craft for the 4th of July season. So what you're going to do is you're going to start with a white base. I'm just taking some white fabric and then this other neutral pattern fabric. And then I'm going to grab my scissors and some red fabric, and I'm going to just cut a whole bunch of strips. This is going to be for the stripes on the flag. And once you've got enough of different patterns, I think that's what makes it so cute, is having all kinds of different patterns that you're working with. You're just going to glue them on. And because we're going for a very rustic look, you're going to notice that I'm just leaving the edges kind of rough. If you don't like the rustic look, you definitely could always clean it up with trimming off those extra fibers, but I really loved the way that it looked. Then I'm going to take some blue and I create a rectangle that is going to go in the upper corner, added some hot glue, and then just went ahead and stuck that on. Now at this point, we're going to go ahead and use that smaller star in the printable, and you're going to go ahead and just cut it out. You can pin it to the fabric. I didn't do that, but I definitely would recommend it if you have a hard time holding the fabric and the pattern together. But go ahead and cut out your star and then glue it on. And then the last step that you're going to need to do for it to assemble your flag is just put some glue and roll it onto the twig that you can find in your yard. Now I like a lot of different patterns and designs on these flags. So each flag had its own little personality with different patterns and different ways that I did the stripes. You can see on this one it had 3 stripes, and then another one it had 4 stripes. So I just really played around with it until I got them all the way I liked them looking. And you can see on this one I didn't use my printable cutout star, I just used a star fabric instead. Now we're going to give it a rustic look. I'm just taking some brown paint in a paintbrush, and I'm lightly dry brushing on some brown paint on these to make them look like they've been aged and they're really old vintage flags. I think that this is just so darling, adding this little detail. Now remember, don't do this to an actual flag, just because that is one of those things that we learn that we should never disrespect the flag. So if you make them out of fabric, it's totally fine to do it, but I highly recommend not doing it to an actual American flag to distress it like that. And then the last little bit of details, I just added on a couple twine bows and it was ready to be used. For this DIY, I have been holding on to this Christmas bell for quite some time because I knew I wanted to turn it into a Liberty Bell. I wanted to paint it like the American flag. I thought this would be so cool to do this as a DIY, and it's a really easy one to get a really cute American look for your home decor. I'm going to be taking my white paint and a paintbrush, and I'm going to be painting over the part of the bell that has a rougher texture. I'm going to leave the shinier part of that red, so that represents the red stripe, and then I've got the white stripe. And then up at the top, I'm going to paint that top part blue. And then after that, I'm going to let it just sit to the side and dry, because if you've looked at the Liberty Bell, you'll know that there's a wood beam that's through the top to hold up the bell. So I'm going to take 4 popsicle sticks with some brown paint, black paint, and water. I mixed it together and created a stain. And now I'm going to cut them down so that they can overlap each other, because if I just cut them in the exact same area, they wouldn't be as strong holding up on the very ends. So 2 of them are a little bit longer, the other 2 are a little bit shorter, and I'm kind of overlapping them in the middle that you can see here, so that they have a nice hold when I go to slide it through the top of the bell where the handle used to be. Crazy enough, it was the perfect fit for it to go through the top of the bell. You can see here that there was still some paint on the inside that hadn't dried, so I'm just going to take a wipey and just wipey that off. Sometimes I get a little impatient when I paint and I start going on to the next step, before things are dry. So excuse me if I do end up doing that from time to time, especially when I'm trying to film things on a crunch. I kind of get a little impatient. Tell me in the comments below, are you a very patient person for paint to dry, or do you get a little impatient like I do sometimes? Now at this point, I'm just taking the back of my paintbrush and I'm just tapping on little dots to represent the stars. You could paint on stars if you wanted to, but I decided to do little dots. And now I'm going to take a very loopy twine bow and I'm going to glue that on right at the neck of the top. I felt like it still was missing a little something and it needed a little bit more at the top, because we could stop there or we can do a little bit more, which is always my favorite. I'm going to layer 2 star buttons on top of each other. And then I'm just going to put that right in front of the bow. But before I put that down, I felt like it was still missing something. So I decided to put one of these finial wood toppers right on top. And I felt like that really did just complete that look. And then I went ahead and added on my button at the very top. And I think this turned out so cute. I hope you all enjoy it and we'll give it a try. This DIY is one that's really popular on Pinterest, and I know a lot of us have these boxes left over because a lot of us have been using the main frame from the Dollar Tree to create different storage crates and things like that. So I've got a lot of these particular little boxes on hand. Now I painted my boxes red, white, and blue, and now I'm going to come in with some gold paint, and you can see that this came from Folk Art. I paused on it so you could see it. This gold paint is one of my new favorites. I just found this and it is the coolest ever. It actually has an iridescent, shiny shimmer gold look to it. It's the best one that I've found. I've tried gold paint before and have been very disappointed many times, but this one was so cool. So I'm just now gluing on some stars on the front to cover up those holes that were originally on the boxes. A lot of us don't know what to do with these boxes unless we figure out a way to cover them, and these stars are perfect to cover them. Now, a lot of people who have done this DIY, they're using a block square, but these little crates work out perfect to be able to get that look. And since a lot of us have these left over from previous projects, it works out great. Now, at this point, you can see that I faced 2 of the boxes down and 1 of them up. I've decided to make mine a little more custom, a little different than what I've seen all over the place on Pinterest and on other crafters channels. I decided to flip the last one up, and I'm going to use that to put some greenery in. But first I'm just adding on some bows to make sure that that looks really cute. I just love bows. I always love bows on everything. And then now I'm going to take some E6000 and some hot glue. I just find that it sticks better whenever I put both of these adhesives in there so it doesn't fall out over time. And then I'm going to put that right inside of that blue box, add in some greenery that I would like, and then it's ready to be displayed somewhere on a cute little table in your home. Project, we're going to be using a hanging 4th of July star sign, a wreath, and then a grass skirt from the Dollar Tree. All of these supplies are from the Dollar Tree except for this greenery. I ordered it off of Amazon. I will link that down below. I just loved this fern plant and thought, oh, it's so pretty to use for DIYs. I cut it up all the time and use it on my projects. So I will link that down below, and I felt like this was the best bang for the buck. You can also pick up things like that at Hobby Lobby and get them with a 40% off coupon, or when they're on sale for 50% off. So what I'm doing at this point, this project is really simple and it just is so pretty to hang up on your front door or somewhere in your house, like in front of a mirror or in your kitchen, somewhere on the wall. It's just so cute. So I'm going to be adding in some ferns and then figuring out my placement that I want on my stars. And then I just keep playing with it and keep adding in more ferns until I feel that it is nice and full. And again, this was just so easy to do. So now at this point, I wanted to add in a couple of little white flowers to add a little more height. And then I'm going to come around on the other side and just keep playing with it. Then I glue on those tails on the back side and add the bow to the front. They are separate from each other. And then I'm going to take one of these welcome signs from the Dollar Tree last fall and just glue that right onto the front. This project is super simple, but looks so good when it's done. I'm taking some fabric, this wood plank piece from the Dollar Tree, and these star metal ornaments, again, from the Dollar Tree. Take your fabric, cut it down to size, and I'm going to add on the red and white first with my hot glue onto the wood. I'm going to push everything down so it just perfectly seals onto that wood. And then up at the top, I'm going to add on the blue. I'm going to leave this rough edge. I really like how that looks. I'm going to cut that down so that way it's all the way snug up to the size of the wood. And then to give it a farmhouse flair, I'm going to take my sandpaper and just sand around the edges. You can also distress this with some ink or some paint if you would like. It's up to you as the crafter. Once I've distressed it enough and I got it to a place where I really liked how it looked, I'm going to take my wire cutters and I'm going to cut away the hook at the top of the star. Then, to make sure it secures well, I'm going to add some E6000 into the tip of the star points and then some hot glue all around that, and I'm going to make sure that it holds in place there so everything kind of locks into that fabric and it's held in place. On the back side, once it was dry, I flipped it over, stapled on a piece of twine, and the best, easiest way to work with twine, if you're going to be threading beads on it, take a piece of washi tape or just regular tape, and then go around the end of that twine, so that way it kind of makes a needle, and it's much easier to thread on your wood beads. Go ahead and thread on as many wood beads as you would like, and then take your stapler and staple on the other end. To finish it off and to have a nice clean look, cut away that extra twine and add a little dollop of hot glue to lock it all into place. I hope you enjoyed this video today. Now, I know there's a lot going on in our country right now, so let's continue to pray for our leaders, for those that are in charge of our country, that we find peace and harmony to unify ourselves together as American citizens. Heaven knows we need that right now. Leave a comment down below to let me know if you liked these 10 projects today. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It means so much to me. And until the next episode, bye friends.